Hello and welcome to this New Year's episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorhead, and today we're going to look back at some of the highlights, learnings, and key takeaways from the incredible leaders we were fortunate to have on the podcast. This was an exciting and eventful year for direct selling. We saw new companies launch into the channel, new ways of connecting with and providing value to our distributors and customers. We had multiple mergers with more business combinations on the way, a landmark court ruling, a redefining of the competitive landscape, and a re-examination of what it even means to be a direct selling company. But I think most importantly, 2023 showed us with even greater clarity that the future of commerce is person to person, that we are in exciting times and well positioned if we continue to lead and innovate as we have throughout the past. Before we jump into the podcast highlights, I want to take a moment and offer my sincere appreciation to Stuart, to Shelley, and the rest of the DSN team for this opportunity that I have to be part of the Direct Approach podcast. It's pretty hard to believe it's been 2.5 years now and still going strong. I also want to thank all the incredible guests for being so generous with their time and wisdom. And finally, I want to thank you, the listeners and viewers, for your support and for joining us on this journey. We have more incredible conversations and insights coming your way in 2024, and we would be honored if you take a minute to subscribe if you haven't already, and share the podcast with your colleagues, with your coworkers, and with your friends and teams. Your support goes a long way. So let's get started and dive into the highlights of 2023.
You want them to see that there's value in them being in this environment. You want to create a culture where it's easy for them to want to join, but hard for them to leave because they just feel like, wow, this is an environment I see myself being in forever, regardless of how much money I make. And I think that's a key piece, Wayne, because, let's just face it, not everybody's going to be a millionaire. How people feel will determine how long we keep them in so that they can start achieving their financial goals.
There is so much choice out there that the brand really has to step up and fill that gap. And when we think about the brand, it's the overall experience. Is the customer service there? Does the product arrive when I expect it? Is it in good condition when it's there? And then increasingly, it's going beyond that into more of what I would call purpose-driven space. What does the company do in terms of environmental sustainability? What does the company do in terms of giving back or social impact? How are they helping worthy causes around the world? And increasingly, I think with younger consumers especially, that becomes a very important purchase driver.
When we said, hey, if we make the priority with the customer experience, we will have success. And we found that immediately implementing that new program, guest checkout with a new lead system, we saw a 2, 3, and sometimes 4-time increase in conversion. We went from we may get 5,000 or 10,000 people to come to the website, went from getting 1,000 orders to getting 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 orders, having months where we would have 5,000 new customers come in through leads because it was so much simpler and easier to order.
We don't commiserate. If you are down, there was, I don't remember who the psychologist was, but it was somebody I listened to at an event. And they said, you got about 9 minutes to complain. The 10th minute, it gets into your head too long. So we'll say, hey, you got 9 minutes, go ahead and vent it out. We call it burping. You need to burp that out, go ahead and burp it out, but then we got to move on. But that's a culture thing again.
I think it's getting out there and starting to explore what the technology can do and start thinking about what those use cases would look like. I was experimenting with AI the other day and trying to use AI to simulate a natural sounding voice and animate an avatar because, is a use case of video avatars being able to do customer service and being able to have that kind of natural conversation. I think that playing with the technology to try and flesh out what those use cases are going to be are key. And if you're not playing around with that technology even a little bit, you're going to miss out on some of the optimization it can bring in.
As much as we want to emulate Amazon as a best-in-class e-commerce platform and experience, we also have to realize that we're a direct seller. And as long as we're going to have a sales network, we need to be mindful of the nuance that brings and still make it as simple as possible, but also be clear enough that it doesn't create further confusion.
If you make a goal from day one that when you communicate, so you might do a conference call, you might hold a meeting, whatever it is, you might even do a 3-way call with somebody, just you and 2 other people, whatever it is, that you make it a goal that you always have an aspect of personal development in your message. Always.
If I've got a random question, if Michelle has a random question, like we swap texts, we send emails, and like we get back to each other quickly. And that type of relationship, particularly shared in this direct selling space, is critical, not only for like success, but also sanity.
Right.
It's great. I'm so grateful for this relationship that we have. And it's fundamental.
It is. It's invaluable to me because we're able to problem solve a lot faster. And we have found that, you know, when we start talking about an idea, someone else will chime in. Okay, well, we were thinking of doing it that way. And then literally in the span of a 15-minute conversation, we can take an idea that we thought was good to an idea that's actually great. And if you really care about this space, like if you care about women being part of the direct sales community, you understand the impact that can have on women's lives, it is essential for CEOs to collaborate more.
We developed what we call LV360 and took a very comprehensive approach to, if we are going to change how we compensate our consultants, what are the other aspects of a healthy business need to change as well to support that?
Always give your best and not just do what you like the best. Success happens outside of comfort zones. So keep yourself out of the comfort zone and your people too. But at the end of the day, it's really about turning the switch, looking for the solution, and not giving up before you have it. And at the same time, be the rock and the serve to all the people, keep them strong on the belief, and drive the vision and keeps them inspired.
I think that direct selling companies that just say, our job is to give stuff to the distributors and let them do all of the acquisition, all of the retention, all of that, won't be around. And I think the ones that are like, how do we partner with our distributors to accelerate acquisition and programmatically address retention, I think are going to be bigger than they ever were.
Being a global company is different. And I think a lot of companies don't appreciate what that takes. And that takes really thinking globally. And people with global experience provide tremendous value in the whole enterprise and how we operate. It now impacts the way we develop products. It impacts the way we manage the product process, impacts the way we manage our work with our sales teams globally, because we have more and more of a global mindset. There's more we can do. I'm not completely satisfied that we're perfect in all this, but we've gone a long ways. And I know from where others are that we've done a good job at looking at this business as a truly global business.
What does she need? What does the beauty consultant need to win in the market? What does she need? I mean, you know, the retail proposition is very important to us. And so what does she need to win in the market? It starts right there. And then once we understand that, then you take the overall brand experience strategy, and then you align the resources to support it, the execution.
On one hand, it may feel a bit obvious, but given how I've run businesses and I see other people running businesses, I think it's really important people understand it. And it is the insight that each generation has radically different points of view on many topics associated with this, whether it's join fee, how they want to be trained, how they want to be prospected, what rewards and recognition they want, what income means enough, sort of makes it worth it to them. And again, if you just sort of take that out of context, you're like, well, yeah, of course, everybody's going to have different opinions, except the way we've run our businesses on a practical level have often been one homogenous message to everyone that is listening to the words coming out of our mouths, right? And I joked at DSU, I've stood on stage and somebody asked me who we're for, and I'm like, we're for everybody, 18 to 80. You know, right. Well, we are, but the words I'm using to attract you to my business, to attract you to my opportunity, to my products, really what we learned from the study, that precise positioning, that precision messaging is hugely important to make sure our messages get traction and we're actually attracting and not repelling the generation that we want in our businesses.
It's not just about changing a comp plan. It's about giving them the tools they need, speaking the language they speak, giving them the training they want in the way they want it at the time they want it. There's a lot more involved. So you're going to see us make a lot of changes. This isn't a one and done project. We've made some big changes in April. We've got a lot more that will be rolling out over the next 12 plus months. And I suspect we'll never stop learning and trying to appeal to the next generation of sellers, whether that's this decade or next decade.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's such an important point. What you just kind of outlined is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about what's happening in direct selling and where direct selling will be in the next 10 years. Never has there been a generation that is so open and used to sharing products with friends, families, or followers. And as you mentioned, they just might do it slightly different. But we have this incredibly captive generation of new incoming distributors that are just so incredibly down with direct selling, whether they define it that way or not.
2024 marks DSN's 20th anniversary, and we invite you to celebrate monumental milestones with us at the biggest and best events yet. Get ready for a year of global expansion featuring more events, more value, and more content than ever before. We invite you and your team to mark your calendars to secure your spot to be in the room, at the table, and in the conversations. Our spring events, taking place April 2nd through April 4th, will be extraordinary. This includes the annual Global Celebration and Awards event with live music with the Free Radicals Band this year, the invitation-only CEO Forum, and 2 full days of DSU, all taking place at the Irving Convention Center in Irving, Texas, located just 15 minutes from DFW Airport and Love Field. Register now for the spring events at dsnevents.com. DSU remains free for all active corporate direct selling executives, and tickets for the in-person Global Celebration and Awards event can also be purchased at dsnevents.com. A reminder that DSN supporter companies have access to a set number of tickets as part of your benefits to the Global Celebration and Awards. If you have any questions about your benefits, please visit directsellingnews.com or contact our team at events@directsellingnews.com.
Just this past Friday, we had a full all-day summit meeting on ChatGPT AI at our company. And so one of the things that we're doing it both internally and externally, but for the field, is we're creating and utilizing AI and building a program within their back office, which is called unfranchise.com. It's their back office that they do all their business, they order, they check their sales and reports. We're building building AI within their back office. And what it's going to enable them to do is get any questions answered. And the great thing I love about this, it's a private chat, right? It's a private AI that's specific to marketamericashop.com. It's going to enable distributors to ask questions, pull up resources about products. If they want to get special questions answered, all that stuff's going to be loaded with Market America centric content. The other thing that it's going to enable them to do is if they want to put out a social media post on one of our products, it'll write those posts for them. Now, of course, they need to edit those and review them, but I don't know if anyone's ever used ChatGPT. I mean, the stuff that I asked for hey, write me a post on this. It's like, wow. I still got to edit it, but the time it saved me from having to do it is unbelievable.
First and foremost, we have a strong, wonderful, vibrant Hispanic community at For Life, and we owe that to early leaders. I just want to get that out of the way and thank them for being there for Life in those early days. So we owe that. If you go to our convention, we're 80 to 85% Hispanic, and so we just try to keep nurturing that, honoring that, and respecting that. So we do I think the main thing that we've done in the last 5 years is that we have stopped translating English to Spanish. We are giving greater honor and respect. We're listening to them. We're putting ourselves in their shoes and not saying, hey, I speak English and I'm Caucasian and we have great translators. That should be good enough, because it isn't. And we've heard that.
We've been training as an industry not to judge somebody when they approach us of what they're capable of, what they might aspire to do. Yet that's exactly what we're doing when we continue to say, how do we separate the affiliate and network marketer? Because the affiliate wants this, the network marketer wants this, but the percentage of people that come into both arenas who just have a few hours to do anything, they're no different.
We're talking like sub 1% and probably fractions of that are actively using even ChatGPT is probably the most prominent app, let alone the hundreds or thousands of other applications that are emerging out there. So my point is, I don't think we're even to the starting line.
Every time I go to one of those markets, I'm making sure that we as a company can commit our time, starting from me to all the way to the organization, that we can commit the time to those markets. And it's not only an extension or another state of the US that we're opening, and then we'll send one manager there from now and then to see if that's going to be working or not. It's to fully commit to that market, not just to add another flag to your wall or to your website. Is truly to become part of that market, to understand the cultural needs, because again, it's not only the language, but it's also the culture that you need to understand. And you need to have people in the ground, people directly from those markets, and to understand and to serve that market the correct way in all senses.
We were being bold by overhauling our compensation plan, which hadn't been touched since 2012. And that's a bold move, especially since it's not one of those things that you can kind of gradually test and pull it back. You know, it's like you put it out there, it's the new plan. So we were being bold from that standpoint, and the way that we announced it and all the different reinforcement that we brought in throughout the rest of Ambition to reinforce the compensation plan was flipping it back over to the consultant group to say, look, this is out here now. You have the opportunity to get a lot more success for new consultants. Go get those new consultants. You can also continue earning money on new customers, continue going to get new customers, because now you're going to get paid for every single one. They were bold moves on our part. It's definitely going to cost us more, but it's an investment in that consultant group that I truly do care about. And we're putting more money out there. That's our bold move. And we're telling them, take what's being put out there. That's your opportunity. And you go be bold with that. And let's see what happens.
This attitude of change and innovation and willingness and openness that we're seeing in more and more and more and more companies to embrace new ideas, to try to innovate, to try to solve things, to recognize we have to change. That's what's exciting to me, because it's through that vehicle and that lens and that attitude that we're going to see the changes that we need to have in the industry. And that's super exciting.
And I think some companies might be missing out on acting like a D2C brand and saying, could we actually have a completely separate affiliate channel and leverage what the D2C brand would do, and leverage all these existing platforms and just offer our product there? I think that's an opportunity if you do it right. But then we launch these affiliate programs and we want to attract these people, and then we ask our same old field development people to oversee it, and they've never done it before. You know, so the other part of this is really we don't take it seriously enough.
This industry, as much as we think it has changed, it's pretty slow. So my fear is we're going to look at this next 5 years and go, well, look at all the changes we made. That's good enough. And I'm telling you, it's just the beginning. It's going to have to change regularly and forever. Or any industry is not going to be relevant. And so I think it's important to change, but I also think it's important to say change is now the norm, and real significant change is now the norm. You have to be fresh-eyed, and that's a hard thing to do when you're fighting fires all day and just trying to make the numbers for October. It's the difference between working on the business and working in the business.
Personal development is something that's got to be going on all the time.
Discouragement, disadvantage, and disappointment is a big part of being successful. But unfortunately, discouragement, disappointment, and disadvantage puts most people down as soon as they have it. They can't, the average person who joins our business can't lift themselves back up. They need a helping hand. And when we have events, and when we have trainings, when we have Zoom calls, when we do these things and we get good personal development people on there that are positive and promote the promise of the future, when we do that, we become battery chargers. So the people can come on the call or come on the Zoom and get charged back up in their belief. And then they go out in that negative 95% of the world that tells me you can't, it won't work, times are bad, this is bad. And the world takes them down. They got to have a place to come back to next week to get charged back up.
We're pretty flexible. We still want to give, people time to prepare, because I think that preparation is really important. I don't want to launch a product just because I put it on a calendar. So if people aren't prepared for it, if the team on the ground says, now is really not the right time, we have this holiday or something, we need to launch it at another time. We're flexible. We can move it around. Then we just try to fill it in with a different kind of promotion, either something focused on sponsoring or on, volume, something like that. So if we miss a target deadline, we'll just fill it in, then we'll move it to the next ideal spot. We also have to look at the product registration status, right? Because each country is so different. And some countries it's very easy. Some countries, I have 3 countries that I think are super difficult to launch products in. And so we just need to really work with their timeline too.
A lot of testing, I believe, is critical for companies. Do A/B testing, test this, that to see what works. Involving the sales force in some of that so they know and see it, I think creates that trust and wins. So it's tricky to navigate. And I think all of us with change so fast, and are we growing, are we not? It's hard times what you're competing against. So you got to just be strong and stick with some of those decisions to weather the storm, because if you keep just changing it and doing this, you're never going to know what it is that's working.
Imagine this, when people came here, right? They left their countries. They came here looking for what? They're looking for an opportunity to make a living. They are looking for what can they do to be better than where they were and if they're second generation, third generation, still the same. So more than the perfect picture, we think about the best business opportunity. How can I take care of them, make sure that they have what they need as an entrepreneur to stay with us? Retention, retention, retention. We measure our success based on retention.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a minute to give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide more candid interviews and insights for corporate executives. And please register you and your team now for the Spring 20th Anniversary Celebration events taking place April 2nd through April 4th in Irving, Texas. You can register at dsnevents.com. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.